When I say the words phenomenal open world, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Maybe it's the bright streets of a city at night. Maybe it's the deep, dark undersea of a stolen London. Maybe it's the dead wreckage of a city at siege. The term open world can describe a whole lot of things, and those are just examples that I featured in videos on this channel, so maybe it makes you think of the incredible rebrand of the Dad of Boy series, or the Far Cry series, or that hardcore Minecraft world that you've been painstakingly building and protecting for a decade. But I would bet that you didn't just think about a game that also happens to be a Battle Royale game. And I don't really blame you. I think, in general, the world of Battle Royale games are not what I would call masterpieces of design. And while designing any world is difficult and takes time, I don't remember H1Z1 for its world building. In truth, I don't remember most Battle Royale games. I'm not really into the whole Call of Duty shoot-a-man style of games. I don't think they're bad, I just think that they're generally not for me, with one incredible and tragic exception. Ring of Elysium was, for a time, the greatest Battle Royale game ever made. Unless you disagree, which you probably do, which is fine. But you're also wrong. Ring of Elysium was beautiful. A gorgeous, snowy map set in the highland backcountry of the fictional Dione. The gunplay was crisp and satisfying, the premise was unique, with the final objective not to be the last man or team standing, but to be one of the lucky four able to board the last rescue helicopter out of the region as an absolute blizzard that would make day after tomorrow blush sweeps through the map. This meant that there was incredible tension for any final fighters. We could put aside our violence and all escape together, or we can be driven by bloodlust like the primal beasts we are, even if it means that no one escapes at all. An exploration of the human condition. Beautiful. But most beautiful, of course, was the movement. Oh, you think walking is neat? A nice trek through the woods, perhaps? Oh, your Battle Royale has a car? Drive a little truck, maybe? How about a fucking snowboard? How about jumping from the highest point of the map and deploying a fucking hang glider, scouting the area from on high for your next objective, or dropping like vultures from on high towards walking corpses that don't know they're dead yet? How utterly phenomenal! What divine design choice it was! What an immaculate world! What beautiful mechanics! What a good game! One that I speak about in the past tense because tragically, Ring of Elysium is dead. I'm sure there was some kind of drama and issue in the background, the kind of thing that H-Bomber Guy could make a 12-hour documentary about, but all that really matters is that Ring of Elysium is gone. And for a while after that, I just didn't really care about Battle Royale games. Sure, I played some PUBG with the boys from time to time, and I had a stint where I played a lot of Apex Legends because getting to jet around the map as Valkyrie is about as good as it gets from a mechanical standpoint, but I never really had a BR game that grabbed me the same way. Until something very unexpected happened. In 2004, Troika Games released Vampires: The Masquerade Bloodlines, a game so nice they named it thrice. It's a game about becoming a vampire against your will and trying to figure out your new life while also contending with the global rule set of the Masquerade, the laws that govern the underground subculture of vampires all across the world. Now, I'm not going to get in super deep with that game or its world, but if you want to know more, watch something that's a bit of an unofficial spiritual prequel to this video, so to say. Seth Zintak has a review of the main parts of that game. It's pretty good, and it's all I knew about the universe before playing anything in the series, so you'll end up with all of the same knowledge I have. I'll post a link in the description, but I will issue a bit of a warning. As much as I like Seth's content, it can get a little the fuck all over the place. I'm not responsible for what you may or may not be exposed to over there. Anyways, after that, nothing big really happened in the series until 2019, when a sequel was announced to be in the works. But if you're the owner of this franchise wanting to develop the sequel to a small-time beloved cult classic, a sequel to a game that released 15 years ago, you might have a hard time getting people interested in that new sequel, especially if it ends up being delayed multiple times, which it has been. So, some people behind Vampire the Masquerade all sat in a room and they pondered the problem and they worriedly wondered and they quizzically questioned, how do we get people interested in Vampires the Masquerade Bloodlines 2? And finally, one quiet lone person raised a shy hand and they said the words aloud, what if we made one of the best Battle Royale games ever developed? And then they did that! Dude, this is gonna look so good.
Dude, we're just getting down. Really getting down.
Alright, so there's a lot to unpack when it comes to this game. It's a battle royale, and all of the usual suspects can be found here. You've got a solid character customization, you've got a bunch of weapons from different tiers, you've got a pre-game lobby to bop around in, all good stuff. But it's where this game gets unusual that it really shines. Here's the basic premise. This game takes place in a world with a vampiric global underculture. To avoid being hunted to extinction, that culture has implemented a set of rules called the Masquerade, a sort of social mask, to keep itself hidden from the unaware human eyes. More specifically, while Bloodlines takes place in the high fantasy world of California, Bloodhunt takes place in our world, in the city of Prague. The game sees you as a vampire battling it out against other vampires, or teams of vampires, because it was an otherwise fairly uneventful night and they needed something to do. And while that's a nifty premise that comes with all sorts of neat details to explore, the big thing I really want to talk about with this world is the world itself, because it feels entirely its own, which is weird when it comes to battle royale games. There's this great video from Jacob Geller specifically talking about worlds built for violence and the uncomfortable similarities between the architectural design of arenas and shooter games and certain architectural design choices in modern schools. Surprise, this video actually has 2 semi-prequel recommended viewings. Now, this isn't a place to talk about violence in schools, but it is a place to talk about how different games build their arenas. Geller describes the whole suite, how every place in Gears of War, for example, that you'll ever fight in can be identified instantly because the whole courtyard is littered with pieces of chest-high cover. And with that mindset, it's hard not to view every shooter through the same lens, as seeing it as a place made exclusively for violence. When I jump into a game of Valorant, for example, I rarely notice how pretty the maps are capable of being. Much more so, I notice that this hallway is the perfect length to watch with the Odin and wait for someone to peek around the corner. Got him! Most battle royale games, despite being open world games, in perhaps the most technical sense only, are not interested in trying to sell you on the quality of their world design. They are locations built for violence. And even when they're not, they're typically not built to be interesting. DayZ, for example, while not quite a battle royale, falls into this design premise. A massive open world with a handful of designated points for violence all spread apart by miles and miles of vast open world. Now, I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea. These worlds are built well and they serve their intended functions well. The fact that PUBG does not have neon is not a bad thing. That's not what the world is designed for. But that does mean that it's really fucking cool that Bloodhunt does. You see, Bloodhunt's open world feels so entirely distinct to me because it doesn't feel at all like it's a world designed for violence. Remember, the Masquerade is a sneaky rule set, and it very purposefully keeps its members in both the literal and metaphorical shadows. That also means, however, that the world does not get built for vampires, and one of the most obvious examples of this is that ladders exist. Okay, that's going to be kind of a weird point if you haven't played the game before, but one of the most important aspects of Bloodhunt is that every surface is climbable. Mechanically, it's a brilliant design choice that keeps fights dynamic, and because there's also no fall damage, a decision that should be made for every game that intends to be fun to play, if you're in a rough firefight, jumping off the roof of a 5-story building to find cover in the streets below is a perfectly valid strategy for surviving gunfights because you can also just clamber right back up the side of the next building. You don't need to find a ladder or stairs, you just run to a wall and hold the space key. But they still put ladders in the game anyways. Of course, I don't think they actually function, why would they? But they don't need to function either way because their actual function is just to make the world feel as real as possible. Vampires do not need ladders, but when the TV antenna needs to be adjusted on the rooftop, someone has to get up to the roof and normal people will need that ladder. And what's so cool is that once you start looking for them, the whole world map is filled to the brim with little points of detail that would only matter for someone who is not a vampire, who is not us. And I genuinely think that that's such a cool design call, a call that represents what this world is actually supposed to be about. Like, this world was not built to accommodate vampires, so this world was not built to accommodate you as the player. And what that means is stumbling across rooftop bars and rooftop gardens, none of which actually need to be there, none of which was designed necessarily for you, but that you can take up space in anyways. And it makes the fights in this world feel so much more interesting than I'm used to fights feeling in these games, because for the first time I really feel like I'm experiencing these fights in the geometry and architecture of a real world, instead of a world designed and purpose-built for those fights. And because of how free the movement in the game is, even just accounting for the jumping and the climbing and the sliding, it means that every part of interacting with this world feels incredible, but honestly, all of that still feels secondary to just how fun the world is in its own vacuum. This world is just filled, every little nook and cranny, with secret little pockets of beauty. Little rooftop areas that feel exactly like the kind of place I'd want to be with people I care about, things that I would design for my own home. Beautiful little pockets of neon that don't really feel like a cover for some sinister intent, but rather they just exist to exist. And on top of all of that, there's so many little pieces of environmental storytelling scattered all around this world. Stuff that absolutely does not need to be there, does not add to the combat or the mechanical experience of the game, but that they put in anyways, and it all serves to make what should have been a background feature in this game into something that I genuinely wish I could just walk around in and explore at my own pacing. A world that I wish they would just make into its own standalone game. Oh, I get it now. And sure, the actual people that roam the world are hyper-basic AI, but the NPCs that roam the world aren't built to be hyper-realistic approximations of real life, they're resources. You can feed on mortals walking the late-night streets of Prague to gain health, but you can also specifically drink the blood of people with different diseases to gain different bonuses to your active and passive abilities. These NPCs are resources, not world building, so they don't need to be super intricate. They just need to be present on the street so that you can, as the technical in-game term states, get that good suck. And of course, all of this is to say nothing about the different classes and all of the unique abilities for each class, or all of the incredible cosmetics, or the fact that the game is free, or that its battle pass is currently free. So many of the frustrations I experience with the battle royale genre are addressed in some way. If you play alone, for example, every player starts with an extra life, and when you die the first time, the game puts you just far enough away from your point of death to be safe in case you want to try a different direction, but also just close enough that you could make a wild YOLO run back at the person who just killed you if you really felt like it. Extra lives are disabled, however, once the zone has shrunk to a small enough size and every fight becomes winner takes all. If romping with friends is more your style, however, instead of extra lives, you have the ability to resurrect your fallen friendly fighters at certain points across the map, so there's as little "I'll just go get a snack while you two finish out the last 23 minutes of this game" as possible. And even if they can't get you back in the game, these games run on a pretty tight schedule. The map starts fairly contained, and with only 40 or so players per match, your average game might only run 23 minutes in its entirety. And if you or your friends get blasted early, the queue times are super short, and it's very, very easy to just slip right back into the next match because the games are full of bots. Not like cheater bots. Like NPC bots, because the game is dying. Bloodhunt has always had a pretty small community. Despite being free, despite getting some streamer attention in the early summer of last year, despite being a very fun game, Bloodhunt only ever peaked at 29,008 players. In the recent months, it's been trying pretty hard to keep its head above the water, above that 1,000 peak player count every month. The devs have stated that they're going to try and keep the servers running for as long as the community is interested, for as long as people are playing, but it doesn't look great. Nothing lasts forever, you know? And I know that, I do, but I'm like 5 hours behind on the script at this point because I spent all afternoon playing the game rather than writing about it. It almost feels unfair that the two games I find in this genre that really resonate with me, neither of them were able to get the staying power I'd want for them. And this isn't the part of the video where I ask you to download the game, where I tell you that, on X date, let's all get on Bloodhunt and show the devs we care. I don't have the platform for that kind of thing. And even if I did, the devs have already stated that the next update will be the final update, only maintenance comes after. And I get it, you know? A battle royale set in the incredibly weird, delightful world of a niche cult classic from 2004 kept alive by interactive fiction games up until the release of said battle royale. I'm not shocked that it, in turn, didn't hit mainstream headliner success. But I don't have any footage of my time playing Ring of Elysium, of my time spent with my friends in that game. I've got some memories, and they've all sort of blended together in a soup of snow and hang gliders and the general sense of merriment, the warm comfort of being in the presence of people that you care about, that you know also care about you, because even after like 4 years away working weird fucking night jobs, they still ask you to hang out. And I really wish I did have some of that footage, you know? 140 hours all spent winning early fights at Blue Peak, then doing a wild ballyhoo to Valley Town and vulturing whatever poor bastards there that, like dogs, were cursed to never look up, and all of it's gone. So this video isn't about me trying to save a game that I love. This video is really just to have some memories that are a little more concrete, because I know this thing that I love won't be around forever. It's a video to celebrate that a thing was here, that it was well made, that it was just so much fun. That there was such unexpected beauty in such an unexpected game. Okay, hi, it's another video with an unplanned outro because I forgot to write one, but those are typically pretty important for these kinds of things. I don't really know what to say here, other than I love this game and I know it won't be around for long. I do highly recommend it if you're interested in weird vampire games or shooter BRs, or if you fall into that incredibly weird sliver of the Venn diagram between those two groups. You probably have a few months to give it a shot. If you want to help support me and the content I make, then the best place to do that is over on Patreon. All of my patrons get access to my videos early, they get them ad-free, they get bonus content that I don't release on YouTube. So, if that sounds interesting, or if you're just interested in supporting the work I do, then consider heading on over there and seeing if there's a spot with your name on it. Thank you.